This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by trainer Shane McGuigan here in London. Shane, first before we come on to all the good stuff, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Yeah, here for obviously Masternak versus CBS, so it's a proper good fight, this one. Obviously, can easily go under the radar because they're both very respectful and one doesn't speak English, but strip it back, like you'd definitely tune in to watch it because Chris is never in a dull fight, unless he's with obviously like someone awkward like Lawrence, and neither is Masternak either. So like when they're left to their own devices, the two of them will be in some serious scrap. So that's it's down to me to try and make sure that he comes through it a little bit more unscathed than he would do himself.
Shane, before we delve a little bit further into the fight and what's expected, I asked Chris this, I'll ask you as well. Is there a bit more of a relief now that you've actually got the date, the opponent locked in, because there was all the talk of whether it be Okolie, maybe Riakporhe, amongst others? Is there that relief now you have a style, a man to work towards?
Yeah, I mean, like obviously we were contracted to box Lawrence Okolie in the immediate rematch, but really, stuff was going on behind the scenes, and we were just saying, look, we want to get out as soon as we can. And Masternak's name was put forward, and we said, yeah, we'll definitely take it. And it's someone to zone in on, and obviously it's done really well on the pre-sales already. I think it's a 4,000 capacity. We'll definitely get that, even on a Sunday as well. So it's going to be a Christmas cracker. It's a brilliant fight, and I think he's got 52 fights in his on his record, and we've probably got a good 15 or 20 of them to actually dissect and look at. And like he boxed that Armenian kid, Jojaz beforehand, Arman Jojaz. Very hard to get a lot of footage on them, or someone like Adam Azim boxing Fanyan. It's hard to get a lot of footage on those kind of guys, and they're also young, so they're developing. Whereas he's 36 or 37, Masternak. You know what you're going to get, but you're going to have to be proper on your A game to beat him.
We know what the pair of them bring to the ring. Everybody will expect fireworks. You mentioned Christmas cracker there. He's only been stopped once in his career. That was 10 years ago, funnily enough, this year. Is it something which you feel like the opportunity will definitely present itself when Chris is in the ring with Matthias?
To stop him, I feel like Dorticus is you put a pad there or you put a bag there, Dorticus is going to hit it a lot harder than Chris Billam-Smith, and it's going to be he throws a lot of punches, Dorticus, but they are not telegraphed, but they're like a consistent, slower paced shot, and it's just real weighty shots. So you can kind of get accustomed to them. I think one of the things that Chris has is that surprise factor. He's quick, and he might not hit you that hard, but he'll pick one out. He might not hit you that hard consistently, but he'll pick one out, and he's got that speed to make it to make it sort of surprising. If you look at Dukar, for instance, Dukar's an extremely tough guy. Went the distance with Jordan Thompson, who's a massive one-punch knockout artist, and people like that. But Chris dropped him twice, but had him hurt loads throughout the fight. Head and body. And if you said to Dukar, who hits harder, Jordan Thompson or Chris Billam-Smith, he said, "Oh, Jordan does," but it's just that element of just the wave of attacks, and that speeding combination.
How would you anticipate December 10th to play out when they're in the ring? I
think I can see them both getting hurt at some stage in the fight. Jojaj. David Hay boxed a guy called Arnold Jurjai. So I always go Jojaj. It's really hard for me. Just hard to pick which one it is. But Jojaj hurt Masternak as well. But he also hurt Chris Billam-Smith. So they both switched off. Masternak beat him in the 4th, and Chris knocked him out emphatically in the 5th. But they've both got extreme chins. They're great at taking a shot, head and body. They've proved that they're absolute hard nuts. But they both can get hurt. So I wouldn't be surprised if either of them hurt each other. I just feel like youth is going to be favouring Chris. I think speed's going to be favouring Chris, and it's just I hate the word momentum, but it is lying in our favour. He's had a couple of really good fights. He had Chamberlain, then he had a great knockout. Then he's obviously gone and won against Lawrence, and You know, Masternak's boxed once in the last 2 years, and but he keeps himself in great shape. He's probably able to do the weight this Saturday. You can tell. So yeah, we can't take our eye off the ball, but it's I feel like Chris is going to win it.
There's also somewhat of a plan heading into next year because you have the Lawrence Okolie rematch there. Obviously, Richard Riakporhe is #1 with WBO as well. Can you just give me an understanding as to how that could play? Do you expect the WBO to call Riakporhe ahead of an Okolie rematch, for example?
We'll have to see. We've got a contract that states that we're going to box the both of them. So we're happy to box the both of them. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Lawrence. So, in an ideal world, we would have got Lawrence out of the way first because if we got to box him, we would have got him out of the way now. But we didn't. We've got Masternak and then potentially Lawrence next and then Riakporhe. So, we'll see. We'll see what the TV says and we'll see what Chris's body's saying. But yeah, it's the future fights are looking great for us. And the good thing is that we got a platform that's willing to headline him and push him push him into these big domestic fights.
Chris somewhat alluded to maybe Lawrence being unhappy with the last couple of his performances, obviously Chris being one of them, and then the David Light fight. Do you feel like that might be one of the reasons, or can you tell me if that was maybe one of the reasons why Lawrence felt maybe not fight CBS, get one more in maybe, and then go into a rematch?
If I was managing Lawrence, I would have got him a fight in between. Yeah, I think I don't know if he's going to stay with Sugar Hill or not, but you've got to get a bit of a bond. And the thing is, it's really hard to change coaches when you're at the top level because the person that knows you and that spent maybe I think I spent 3 years with Lawrence, 3.5 years, and you learn on the job, like against Ngannou, for instance. Like it was a reasonably hard fight. He was holding a lot in that fight. If that had gone the distance, that would have been a stinker. But really, it was, getting him to create a little bit more distance, getting him to be a bit more disciplined. And then obviously we got to start to get some momentum there. And I think Lawrence is best when he's active, but I don't know what's going on with him. I really don't. And I wish him well. Obviously, we're not working together. But I don't know where his head's at with boxing, to be honest, because he says that he makes good money outside of boxing, which I know he does. He sets some things up, and I'm really happy for him to do that. But you can't do this job half-assed. It's such an equaliser, and it's a truth teller. When you got 10-ounce gloves on, and you got a guy that's 15.5 stone by the time they've rehydrated, maybe 16 stone, whacking you in the side of the head. Like if you don't want this game, like. It's gonna come out, and the worst thing is he's gonna come out in front of thousands of people and hundreds of thousands of people watching it on TV. So, I think he has to get settled and get a win behind him, and then we can do it afterwards. It's like in this phase of his career, he shouldn't be looking at just like a massive bag of money. Like he should be looking at like I need that for my mindset to go into this fight. I've just lost that fight. I need a win. I need something that's. He's made good money in his career, so it's like get me out, get my confidence up, get proper good sparring, and then and that's the way to properly prepare yourself. But unfortunately, these big gaps in careers is just not helping anyone.
Shane, obviously we saw Adam Azim knocking about today. How's his preparations looking ahead of his headline bout in Wolverhampton?
Yeah, great. He's just done 12-round sparring today with the Donovan brothers. I've got Paddy Donovan and his cousin, not brothers, the Donovans I should say, and Jim Donovan as well, who's a really highly talented amateur, who's Paddy's first cousin. So really good sparring, and also just, it's funny because Adam's boxing for a European title, but he's still so early on in his career and he's still learning all the time. So it's great to see, Petr not going to box like Paddy Donovan. He's not going to be as sharp as that. But if you can prepare and if you can constantly try and improve and strive to get better every day like that, you're making yourself a complete fighter at this stage. It's just what we just talked about. When you get to the top level, there's no easier fights. It's like you've done your learning and you've done your apprenticeship. You get to the top, and the hard spars and the tricky spars and figuring all those different styles out. You do that behind closed doors, and you keep winning. And that's the thing. So when you get to the top, when you're in against guys that are the Jack Cattralls of this world, or Josh Taylors, or Devin Haney's, or whoever's world champion, Regis Pro, whoever's world champion at the time. You've got to have seen that style in training. You've got to have seen that style, maybe similar style on the way through. You have 15, 20 bouts to get yourself up to that top level, you know. So he's developing all the time, and he's still so young, but he's such a talented, special fighter. So, you know, I think he's going to win against Petr Yan. I think it's going to be a great performance, and I'm just excited for the future for him.
Can I gain any more information out of you about that Paddy Donovan sparring? Because those in boxing were certainly excited when we saw the photo of a pair of them in the gym.
Brilliant. I really like Paddy. He's a really sharp fighter. He's got a lot of speed as well. He's got a good speed. He's got good whip in his shots, and they're both like super intelligent fighters. You know, so. It's not a traditional spar where they're just one's like walking forward. It's a real sharp, you know, not a lot's going on in certain parts of the rounds, but they're really figuring each other out, and you know, it's great. It's great sparring. That's exactly what we need. You know, I remember having Dad got in contact with Robert Garcia before the Regis Prograis fight for us, and we had Alexis Rocha come in for Josh Taylor, and like it reminds me of that. It was like heightened sparring. It's not like, it's like heightened sparring, like you're on red alert, and like you need it 4 or 5 times in a camp, but it makes you just so much sharper. You know, you don't want to be sparring guys that's in the same gym as you. You don't want to be sparring guys that are, you know, there just to like pick up their 500 quid for the week sparring, or 600 quid or whatever it is, and be happy to be there. This is, you know, Paddy's getting paid, but he'd probably be there for free, because it's equally as good for him, you know, to get that experience. So, yeah, really happy with the sparring.
Shane, just 2 questions away from your fight. I just want to get your thoughts on Fury-Ngannou this past weekend. Did you watch it? What were your thoughts?
I did watch it. I thought it's just a vague question. I mean, what do you do? I thought Ngannou won. But I can see why he didn't win, because he wasn't active. You know, he wasn't active in rounds, and yes, the punch stats say that he was landing the same, but Fury's constantly moving and keeping you honest and keeping you twitching and jabbing. But okay, you throw it back to like, who's the one happy to take a shot and land his own? That was Ngannou. You know, who's the one that was pressing the fight, pressing the action, like he was nudging him back. You know, who was. You know, Fury was reacting out of not fear, but he was reacting because he had to. I just think, like, for a debutant boxer, what a fantastic performance from Ngannou. Yes, obviously he's been in combat sports probably, I don't know how long, probably he's 37, probably 20 years, but it's a very big difference doing a different skill. So he didn't know how to pace himself, and you know, really, if you rolled that fight back in 3 months' time, I think Ngannou beats him, but beats him a lot more convincingly. Tyson Fury hasn't had a competitive fight in a long time. Yeah, he hasn't had a really great performance since the second Wilder fight. I know that's harsh of me to say because he still won, but he won the second fight so convincingly. And yeah, Wilder can say he wore that silly suit and he put on too much weight and he was sluggish and stuff, but he completely dominated him. And even that first fight, like, yeah, he was not off the couch, but he didn't have the activity. He come in and he dared to be great, and just like the typical old school Tyson Fury fashion, he went into their territory and won it, even though he got the draw. But then the third fight was a bit, he's getting hit too much, and he was looking for his shots too much. And then he boxed Dillian Whyte, and then he boxed Derek Chisora. Those aren't competitive fights for a guy that is the best heavyweight on the planet in terms of his own mindset. Top 3-4 heavyweights in the world, they dismantle that level. They put Filip Hrgovic in there with Derek Chisora, punch the head off him. So it's just one of them. I think, did he take it lightly? Maybe, but is he slipping? Maybe he's slipping. Maybe he's, maybe he's not what he once was. Or maybe Ngannou's just an absolute right handful. And if he'd have been boxing, I mean, I remember I listened to Teddy Atlas talk about Ngannou, and he said if he'd have got Ngannou at the start, he'd have made him a champion. He made it because he picked it up. He said like the difference is that someone like Conor McGregor, he was good striker, but he boxed in Crumlin Amateur Gym. I think I boxed in a tournament with him. I definitely boxed in a show the same day when he boxed. I wouldn't have remembered him, but I know because Phil Sutcliffe told me that we boxed on the same show. But you would never say like, oh my God, he's a standout. But if Ngannou was 16 years old or 17 years old and he was boxing, you'd remember him because he'd probably be folding people. He would have had that X factor. The heavyweight division isn't as skillful, so your physical attributes can be much more beneficial in fights. And I think if he'd have got in a boxing gym early on, then he would have been a champion for sure.
And I spoke to Zhang the day after the fight. He said it was embarrassing for the sport, the way that the fight unfolded. Do you understand where he was coming from, or do you disagree with that?
I think Zhang knocks out Ngannou because I think what Tyson Fury doesn't have is that. I know he's worked on it, but he doesn't have that one punch concussive power. And like Ngannou was there to be nailed. I mean, Tyson Fury hit him with like a left hook right hand, then hit him again with a left hook right hand twice, 2 clean shots, and then got hit on the top of the head on the second shot, on the second face. But like, if Zhang hit him with them shots, like 90, but a proper puncher, and he probably would have dropped him or really hurt him. So that's hypothetical, of course, but I just think like Ngannou was comfortable in there because he's a real hard man. And I think styles make fights, especially at the heavyweight division. It's just it is genuinely like just a mix of a blend. But I think Fury definitely was a risky fight. It shouldn't have taken it.
It has delayed Alexander Usyk undisputed back till next year. Has that performance from Tyson maybe changed your opinion on how that could unfold when Alexander and Fury shivering?
Completely different fight. Completely different fight. I mean, like, let's look at like Tyson Fury. Like, he struggled with Otto Wallin. I know Otto Wallin's like 6'5", and Usyk's like 6'3", and Usyk fights small, and Wallin kind of keeps his height a bit more. But he does struggle with southpaws, and he struggles with people that are busy. And Wallin's not a massive puncher. John McDermott wasn't a massive puncher. He was just busy. So like Fury likes guys that set their shots up and throw like Wilder. So big shot because you think I'll just take that away from him. So I think the busyness is definitely going to be a huge factor. That's a question mark to say, how does he deal with that? Fury's used to being the active fighter. So how's he going to deal with a guy that's a southpaw that he doesn't traditionally like anyway, and someone that's busy and on him? But I do think he's got a great ability to use his size. He couldn't do that against Ngannou. He could do it against Deontay Wilder, even though he was an inch taller, much heavier than him. So like, that's going to be a factor for the fight, and it's going to create a lot of question marks over the fight, which is great. It's going to create a bit more attention around it, and I hope people's opinions sway. But if Usyk was 6'5", he beats him every day of the week. But he's not.
Final one from me, Shane, just to get your thoughts on the Benavidez-Andrade bout on November 25th.
Benavidez. Yeah, I'm a massive fan of Benavidez. I think he looked good. He's looked good throughout his career. He struggled with Caleb Plant, which I was quite shocked at. I thought Plant, I think with that style, I would have thought that Benavidez would have probably got to him quicker than Canelo did. But he didn't. He rushed his shots, and I think with that slick style, it does make you question his ability to track. He's got a lot of height, Benavidez, but he punches quite short. And Andrade's got that wide stance. He's got that ability to sort of draw your lead. But really, he went to the Olympics at 69 kilos. I know he's big for the weight. I know he was big for middleweight when he filled into it, but Benavidez was like 250 pounds, was like 14. He's a huge guy, and he's boiled himself down. I just think like maybe the size is gonna, even though like height wise they look similar, but I think I just think maybe Benavidez might be too strong for him because he's naturally just that little bit heavier. Great fight though, because Andrade, I think he's a right-handed southpaw. I think he's got a sharp front hook, and he's very skillful as well. It's going to be interesting to see if he carries his power up, because Benavidez got hurt as well. What fight did he get hurt in? It was like the 11th round. Someone, yeah. But he hasn't showed many vulnerabilities throughout his career, but he definitely showed. I remember seeing him. Oh, he got rocked a little bit. So, and I think it will be the speed of the shot. So, be interesting. Really interesting fight. But what a shame that Showtime's not going to continue their broadcast. And I know that they've got another couple of fights with Canelo that will go throughout next year. But we can't lose those guys. You know, we lost HBO and now we're losing Showtime. It's fucking devastating. Good for people that are streaming platforms like Amazon Prime and DAZN and stuff, but we need it on the box, man. I know you can get it, but we need it on the traditional channels, and I think those platforms it's such a shame for boxing.
Shane, I appreciate your time. I know Q's form behind me, which you won't be thankful for, so thank you for speaking to me, and I'll see you again soon.
You started an issue here, man. I only wanted to do one quick one, so thanks, Andy, mate. Cheers.